Good morning, afternoon, and evening, everyone, and welcome to another edition of ARC webinars, where we dive into the challenges and opportunities of managing projects in today's diverse, interconnected world. Today's topic, cross-cultural multiple communications in project management, is more relevant than ever, and we are honored to have a guest who brings both this scientific expertise and rich international experience to this conversation. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Didier Barradas-Bautista. Dr. Barradas is currently a visualization scientific at the King Abdullah University of Science and Technology in Saudi Arabia, where he supports cutting-edge research in machine learning, artificial intelligence, and high-performance computing. With a PhD in computational biology and bioinformatics from the University of Barcelona, and over a decade of experience working across Mexico, Spain, and Saudi Arabia, Dr. Barradas has led international collaborations, mentoring students, and played key roles in projects at the intersection of science, data, and culture. From leading AI-driven projects to build frameworks from data science education and resource sharing, his works demonstrate the importance of clear, inclusive communication, especially in multicultural, multidisciplinary environments. We are thrilled to have him here with us to explore how cultural awareness, technical leadership, and effective communication can elevate project success across borders. Let's give a warm ARC webinars welcome to Dr. Didier Barradas-Bautista. Good evening, Doctor, right? Where you are located?
Exactly. It's already 7 p.m. in this side of the world. Thank you very much for having me.
It is, as I said, it's really a pleasure to have you here as an example of this really good topic, cross-cultural communication in project management. And we just heard about a little of your background, right, Doctor? So
Yeah.
could you tell us to the audience your personal journey from Mexico to the King Abdullah University, so we start getting to know you a little more how this happened?
Yeah. Okay. So let me start by saying, like, I migrated very young from city to another city to study my bachelor. Then I decided to pursue a PhD in Europe. So I went from Mexico to Spain. And you would assume that we are very similar and very close cultures, but actually it was fun to go to Spain and realize that we are very different. And from then, I then started working on the King Abdullah University of Science and Technology in Saudi Arabia. And it almost happened kind of by luck, because one of my friends in Spain, who is Italian, told me about this place. We were looking to work here, and then an opportunity opened for me. I took it, and then here I am. So I've been jumping across the pond several times, but it's been a nice ride.
Wow, but this is gonna be really good because if I understand correctly, you already have experience working in multiple continents now, not only with multiple people. Now it's multiple continents and with a lot of expertise there, right?
That's
So,
correct.
in your experience, Dr. Didier, uh, what are some of the most common challenges that teams face when working across cultures in project management? I'm assuming you have been in a scenario with multiple people coming from multiple places, right?
Yeah, obviously, the first one that we should talk is language. Like,
Okay.
language is indeed a big barrier, and you have to also start understanding how big is the barrier for some people. Because, for example, I work with Chinese colleagues and Arabic colleagues. I cannot speak Chinese, and I cannot speak really well Arabic, As a matter of fact, I should say, I do not speak Arabic. And I didn't realize this until I have friends from Asia specifically. Like for them to learn English, the barrier is so high. They literally have to learn a completely different way of thinking. So when I try to look at the Chinese language, it's like, okay, yes, I get it. I cannot understand Chinese just by trying to jump into it. While between Spanish and English, there are more similarities and structures are similar. That's a very normal barrier to have. So you have to be patient and you have to be aware that many people have a very tight accent. So if you listen, also, for example, my friends from India, they have this amazing accent. And I know they are proficient in their language, but the accent in English is stand out. So that's one of the things. The second thing that I should say that is very challenging is the feedback style, because it actually is different from one place to another. When you're talking to your superior, your manager, your PI, your professor, whatever is the hierarchy where you are, they give feedback in some way that is different probably from where you were. So for example, you have the very direct feedback, and then you have the very not direct, like let's say low context versus high context feedback, meaning that they might be positive or they try to give you, like, for example, the American style, give you 5 points, 4 are positive, 1 is negative. So you have to really listen to that last point, because that's what you have to actually put attention. Another example is there are many examples in Europe. For example, the Dutch are very famous for being very direct without any filter. And that could lead to many misunderstandings, because in their culture, being very direct and without filters could be very aggressive for example, a Mexican that is always thinking, you have to soften the way you talk to another. Like, no, here's how it is, and these are the words, and so on and so forth. I can go. Like, for example, even the different ways people talk in their home countries. For example, in some African countries, somebody can start saying like, "This is stupid," and it's like, okay, but why the word "stupid" comes all the time? And like, is the way they think? No, it's the way they speak only. This is a manner of speak. So these kind of small details, if you're not aware of them, they become a challenge when you are just into getting a new person from another culture, from another place.
Yeah, seems like I can imagine in the scenarios where people try to express an idea and you express the idea, but since this is not, there is this kind of a style is different between groups,
Yeah.
everybody might perceive a different thing, right? Even aggressive when it's not really aggressive, it's just these are the words, right? Like people from Dutch or people from United States, they are also
And
similar on that.
just one more example for that I love. Like here in the Middle East, for some reason, they decided that every email start with "Dear Fernando," "Dear Didier," and when you take this email into some place like United States, it's like, why are you calling me dear? Why don't you address me like, I don't know, Mr. Doctor or whatever? And it's like, this is the way we write here, but it's not the way they write there. And that is misleading, because it's like, why are you saying this? Why we don't know each other? Like, okay, but these kind of details are the ones. Another one, like when a friend from France says, "I demand this," you can take it like, are you demanding? Are you asking this?
Mhm.
But it's like, no, there's a word called demander or some, I don't know how to pronounce it really. But it's like, they do the cognates, and the comparison is like, I demand, you default to that. And like, yes, you're thinking in French and you're trying to translate it to English, but the words mix.
They do not align properly.
Exactly, don't align properly.
Okay, yeah, that's really really interesting. So when you had all these challenges working in these uh, multicultural teams, how do you adapt your leadership, your communication to make sure that uh, we can move with the project, right? Otherwise, if everybody's doing something different, we will never get anything done. So, what do you do there? How do you make sure that people goes to the same direction?
Okay, so in my case, what I try is to establish as possible the lowest context of communication, meaning like all the words I say is the words that I mean. And I try to make understand to my colleagues is like, let's work in this way. When you are talking to me, talk without trying to imply something. Just try to minimize the risk of misunderstanding each other. If I'm asking you, can you do this? Tell me yes or no. And I will take it as a yes or no question. So we tried, at least in my teams where I've been participating or where I lead, it's always like that. Let's try to keep this as simple as it is, as a yes or a no, so we can understand each other. And obviously, something that I learned with time is to be aware of the different cultures,
Mhm.
in the sense of, okay, how is your culture managing some aspect, for example, time and meetings? Usually, because I am in a developer software, let's say, environment, we all have the same kind of mentality. So in that sense, we kind of always agree in what is the objective and how much time we're going to put to that project. But when I have to collaborate with my colleagues in the university and they have very long project, then it's when we have to sit down and say like, look, I have this amount of time. I can allocate this amount of time. Is it okay with you? And can we involve this and this and that? And then it's like try to, from the get-go, from the start, establish baselines, and with time, more trust and direct communication.
Mhm.
But it depends sometimes of the people, sometimes on the project, and many more times with how much time do you have.
So you try to set expectations up front, right?
Yeah.
That's kind of making sure that this is what we try to do and slow the context at the minimum, right? To make sure that we don't have any more additional words or anything else that could create more conflicts on the communication, correct?
Yeah, we try to clarify all the things that we are saying,
Hmm.
in the sense that, okay, let's give less room to interpretation. Just mind with me and play with me in this way for this meeting, for this moment, for this project. Because otherwise, if I ask you a question and you cannot do it for your part for any other reason, don't be afraid. Just let's talk each other and minimize as much as possible that noise that we will have at some point.
That's the point. Okay. This actually triggered an interesting question, Dr. Didier.
Mhm.
You are working in one of the best universities in the world, doing research, right? So I'm going to assume that your team is really high performance individuals, right? People who come with strong backgrounds, probably a lot of research, a lot of credentials. I mean, just a lot of genius. That's another important part to manage, right? Personalities that are going to be slightly different. That in putting together a type of team, how you make sure everybody's working to the same goals.
Absolutely, you're correct. So there is, I always have the luck to work with the bosses
Hmm.
that understand that if they let me work, I just work. It's like they give me the objective, they give me the project, and I will just work autonomously. However, you're correct that there are some people that is not like that. As a matter of fact, you can see here in the university, some PIs have two kinds of students. The kinds of students that need mentorship and guidance, and the other ones that don't. So it's the same in different teams. There are some parts of the team that need a boss, because the hierarchy in their mind is like, I work for the boss and the boss will tell me what to do. While the other one will say like, okay, my boss wants that thing, let's go get it done. In that sense, it really comes back to the leadership and how prepared is your boss for dealing with that. In my team, for the team I am a member, our boss gives us tasks and he knows we're going to basically go and perform, because we all pass through the PhD process. So pretty much we know naturally how to process a project, but each of us has different branches. So we attack the problems in a different way. My boss is really good to have levels of how to manage us. Like, okay, do we have these and these and these objectives done? Okay, fine, let's go get it. When I'm involved in another teams, then is when I have to start setting my own radar to say, okay, who needs me to be a leader and tell them what to do, and who just needs to tell them what to do. And that's a little bit of, let's say, a skill that you acquire. Because at the end, it comes also with some cultures. Like, for example, my Chinese friends, especially the Chinese students, they are very hierarchical in the sense that if you are a senior, they talk to you in a different way. And if you're the intermediary between the real boss and them, they're more comfortable talking to me than to the real boss, because they don't feel that gap. And you have to start understanding this kind of little details in order to progress in the work. So for me, the most important part is always be that intermediary, in the sense like, okay, if you cannot talk to the boss, I will talk to the boss for you. I want to encourage you to go to talk to the boss, but if it's too hard for you right now, okay, let's do it together. Or pass me the information and I will tell him. And then the point is to advance.
Wow, this is incredible. I mean, considering that you guys can solve problems that probably nobody can do, you can imagine that talking with a boss would be kind of an easy thing for one of those scientists, but it's incredible. Now, going back to this is really getting interesting. When you are working on a project, could you share with the audience a misunderstanding, something that you say, okay, this happened to me, like an example, because a cross-cultural problem, or opposite, is because we were together and we were perfectly aligned, we were able to overcome these issues. Do you remember something like that in previous projects that create issues
Okay,
in a...
so I will give you one example that didn't happen to me and one example that did happen to me.
Okay.
One example that didn't happen to me, but it seems cliche. But I met the lab director that in the moment I arrived here in the KAUST. I talked to this guy. He was French, and he was basically running the management of the labs to see the supplies were done and everything. And he also gave some workshops about security and where the different parts, like the kits for aid were. So one of the things he actually taught us is like, remember, we're in a multicultural setting, because when I gave this workshop to people from India, I was telling them something and I was saying like, do you understand? And they were nodding like this, or like this, side to side. And he was saying like, wait, do you understand or not? And they were, no, we understand. And because of the Indian note goes side to side, he thought they were not understanding. even though they were saying they were understanding. What he did not understand is like they were saying yes all the time, because he has not seen that people in India can say yes, moving their head side to side. But he overcome that by then just asking them like, what are you doing? What does that mean? And like, okay, so now I understand that means yes. Like, yeah, okay. A small detail, it doesn't just happen here, it has happened many, many, many other times in other places, like in Europe. I saw it, for example. In my case, I will tell you that there were some meetings that there were some heated arguments. Like people were into heated arguments, and I was part of that. For example, in one of the meetings, it got very heated because we were discussing the implementation of something in the HPC cluster, and somebody pointed at me and like, hey, what do you think? And it was like with a stronger voice and higher volume. And then I talked to my boss and like, did they just point me out, or it was like something regular? And like, no, wait, let's talk to these guys. And then we came back with a coffee, and we were all friends. And like, it's like, are you? And I told this colleague, he's like, are we okay? And like, yeah, yes, no problem. This is just work. And it's like, okay, so it's not personal. It was just a matter of the work. Yeah, fine. For me, communicating with this person is really easy because I knew him from before, right? So I had the confidence to go and actually ask him what happened in the room, because you are not like that with me, at least not when we are in the hallway. So it was something that didn't click, but then I realized he compartmentalized, he does compartments, and it's like work is one side and life happens in another side. So understanding that, it actually helped me, because here also in KAUST, we have to be very compartmental. Like we have to really make the best split of our life in work and our life outside work, because we are very close, living all close together. It sounds like severance from Apple. So I learned that actually is happening here in the university, that many people have this ability to say like, work is one thing, my life or my friends are another thing. So very curious. We solved it very easily just by talking. That was it. And we did business as usual, as always.
Yeah, that seems like a problem that if you don't solve from the beginning could be really bigger later on. Now, quick question, doctor. Do you guys live on the same university, or how that work?
Again?
Do you guys live on the same university area, or you have to commute to another area?
No. That's part of the beauty of KAUST. It's like we are very close to the actual university. My house is 15 minutes away from the university by bicycle.
Oh.
So actually, yeah, my colleagues are around the same area. So we're not very far away. And we meet each other pretty much on a regular basis in the grocery store. So there you have it. It's like, it's better to try to maintain in your head like the life outside of the work is different from the life outside of the work.
Of the work, yes. Well, really, really good input there, Dr. Didier. So again, going back to the teams and the project management capacity in your side, when with these challenges, having I don't know how many different people are, but assuming it's a lot of people coming from different places at the coast, what are the strategies that you have found more effective for building trust and collaboration in this type of environment for TINSA?
Yeah. No, let me say, like, we have around represented 50 different countries here in the university. So
Oh, wow.
they come from everywhere. Like I have I have met people from the 5 continents. So you have all the different result of people that you can even imagine. Because we are in a university, one good strategy, and because everybody loves coffee, setting a coffee to talk about the projects is one of the things that people do.
Ah,
So there is that. For example, in my previous team, for example, there was an annual dinner. So during one day, we all gather together. We go to a restaurant. We all chat with each other, introduce the new persons of the team to the other persons in the team. So that was one. Something that I like to do, and because I'm very curious, in the informal setting, of course, is having lunch with another person just to drop the question like, tell me about your culture. Like in my culture, I have this. What do you have in your culture? Try to find some, common ground. For example, with my Chinese friends, I then realized that I do not know how to drink coffee as they would prepare it, and I don't drink tea. Absolutely, I don't drink tea how they prepare it because the way I thought it was like I just boil the leaves, and they were saying like no 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 no, you have to filter them 2 3 times, and then the third batch is what you drink. And like, that's interesting. And that started to be a common ground for jokes and interacting with each other. Something very specific here at the university is talking about food. Like if there is one big non-political but very agreeable topic is about food.
okay.
Everybody has their opinions about food here. And because we have so many examples of different food, everybody has something to bring literally to the table, well, to the proverbial table. Something also that I learned through COVID is to avoid Zoom. So like in-person meetings have to be meaningful because what you want is the focus of the people in one specific problem. Now, I just said like in any other company, there are so many meetings that could have been an email. But there are some meetings that you want to meet with that person to focus in what to do next. And usually you cannot do that on Zoom. In Zoom, you probably have the problem that the person is looking at the phone that is over here or the other thing that is over there, and the focus is lost. So for project management, if you want to attack a specific part of the project, probably it's better to have something like very specific discussed on Zoom, but it's way better if you have to do a longer review on person.
Mm, yeah, no, that's a really interesting point of view, considering that now I will say that probably half of the meeting happen at Zoom, right? This is the
Yes.
kind of the new standard after the COVID, or either Zoom, Microsoft Teams, Google, name
Yeah.
it. There are about a bunch of stuff. But you bring a really interesting point. Face to face, create this connection, right? With the person.
Yes. Yeah. For example, if in person is difficult already to get the focus and attention of somebody while you're
Mhm.
speaking face to face, on Zoom is very easy to get distracted. Like in virtual settings, it's very easy to get distracted. Like it's Teams or whatever other application you have, could be good to have multiple people listening, but multiple people will be distracted. So you're actually just focusing in a couple of them in the Zoom meeting. That's part of why it's like maybe we should get together and maybe just the people that is interested, who knows, depending on you. But the focus is very easily lost in the nowadays with all the different distractors that we have.
No, I agree with that. So, in a normal day, how do you structure your meetings? I mean, between personals and Zooms. I mean, do you have like 50-50, say my 50% of my meetings I need to do Zoom because maybe they are just follow up. Do you have like a schedule or something how you manage that part?
Well, I should confess that I do not have a clear strategy on how to do it because
Okay,
sometimes it depends on where is my colleague.
okay,
Sometimes they're in Egypt, sometimes they're in China, sometimes they're in the United States. And of course, I cannot have a personal meeting with them in other way, but Zoom. But I should say, like, I try to make the Zoom meeting as short as possible. So I already go with some very specific point to discuss. And
okay,
then, if it's possible, I will meet you in person here in the university. And then we can spend 1 hour if it's necessary to get all the details out of our project. And that's where actually some other ideas or some other problems can be discussed for the next meeting. But that's pretty much the two rules that I have. It's like, if it's a Zoom meeting, because I know people will lose focus and interest very quickly, let's do a quick meeting. And
okay.
then if we have the opportunity to discuss more and, be more relaxed, let's do it in a in-person setting.
In person. So if I understand, doctor, your teams are spread not only at the university, but also around the world sometimes, correct?
Yes, many of my colleagues go to another universities to visit, for example, to United States. Very, very often they go to conferences, and some of their collaborators are there. So we have to, get a common ground sometimes. It's easier if
Oh,
they're in Europe because Europe is not that much of a time shift. But if they are there, it's like we cannot fly them here, or you know, it's just a matter of setting stuff in the right time.
yeah. The moment that you are moving into America, for example, the time change is gonna be also a problem there.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Because
Wow.
right now you are in the morning and I am in the night, for example.
Mm-hmm.
And then
That's correct. Yes.
if we don't have a tool to actually set up the correct timing in your time zone and in my time zone, people get distracted and they lose meetings. I have lost meetings with people in Italy where the time difference is just 2 hours. And everybody's emailing at the last time. It's like, are you okay? Why are you in the meeting? It's like, is the meeting now? I'm like, yes, it's now. But it's like, what time are we talking about? What time frame?
Wow. This is a totally different challenge now that I see it. I mean, I have a lot of meetings with people, but most of the people is on the same time zone, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's. I mean, we may have something on India in the mornings, or maybe something in Europe around mornings also, but that's the most. And it's difficult for me to manage here. Now I can imagine how difficult it will be with all people around the world.
You have to have some kind of app or good tool that allows you to do this, because if not, this. And also, as you said, like, feedback is really difficult to get,
Mhm.
because you can send, please fill this form to know what time is the best for you. And sometimes it takes days for them to fill it. And it's like, okay, so be patient, but also not patient to the point that you cannot advance in the project.
Okay. So now that you are talking about some tools, doctor, uh, any specific tool or framework that you can recommend or that you use actually to bridge this difference or all these challenges working at the KAUST University or the Kinadula and with the rest of the world? Anything that you can share and say, this is what worked for me?
Okay, there is no specific tool in the sense of communication tool that I can give you, because it depends on the discipline here in the
Hmm.
university. When I'm talking with the computer science people and the data science people, we all use Slack, which is basically a chat where we can
Hmm.
put and place a code. and it's very direct. Even if we are next door, it's like we have the logs there, and we can now it has so many small applications there that you can insert for task related projects. So, for example, with my colleagues of data science, we use that. In order to, right now, we can use Zoom or Microsoft Meets to arrange meetings with people that is in Egypt, working alongside with us. And so we used to have a common, it was a common documentation where it was not the Microsoft or the Google Docs. It was more like a note-taking app that we could all enter and place all our recipes or process in different projects. In terms of bridging just cultural difference between us, the different cultures, the university makes a lot of events that tries to bring together all the people, and they try to, just place everybody there, but that's like at the university level, and that's not on me, right? It's like if you go
Correct.
there or if you don't go, I cannot control it. But so far, like specific tools that we use in my team, in the team that my manager has assembled, we use something called Axosoft, which is for project management in the agile style. But we use it a lot to log in our projects, and he can see from a very high point of view what are we working and what's the progress of different projects. So in that sense, we have those tools to manage ourselves or others in that sense. It really depends because then when I work with people from chemistry, they have another way of thinking. They use Word to write everything. And usually they are not aware that there are other tools in the cloud or something like that. Or if the project has to be like really coveted because there are some IPs there involved, then is when we have to go with the USB key to the other computer and just share the information or the key points. It's a different problem when you have to protect some IP.
That I imagine is something that you guys deal a lot because you are on the research area, so you are creating new technology. So let's move into that part, Doctor. Could you give us an idea what is the type of projects that you guys work around on daily basis, just for the audience to have an idea?
Okay, so in the KAUST visualization core labs, we have a wider range because I was working with the marine science department, for example, creating a data science app for them. We have also worked with Saudi Aramco for some other projects of visualization. For example, my colleague, Ronald Barradas-Bautista, also a doctor, he has the widest range of different projects I have seen ever, because he has worked with people that see at the brain. So he works with neurologists, he works with people that looks into the Red Sea. So those are marine biologists. He has worked with Saudi Aramco, so that's oil and petroleum and rocks. And he was working also with combustion. So it's a wider range. Then I have my friends, like my colleagues that visualize also the weather. So there's a lot of calculations done to predict the weather, and they can output that using the supercomputer to see where it's raining or where it's going to rain and blah, 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 blah during the year. And me, myself, I have a couple of different projects with biotechnologies, with rocks, with some microfossils and imaging. I mean, you name it, we have different kind of projects going on. So we do not attach ourselves to one discipline. We can do many. Obviously, you go to the different labs that are here in the university. Each lab has their own track. Like if they're in plant biology, you will find plants. If they are in the Red Sea Center, they will probably will be looking at fishes and corals and some other things. If you go to another, for example, obviously we have a computer science department. They are looking at IoT, Internet of Things, how to train different language models now that they are a lot of agents being developed. They are
Mhm.
also in that, and so they are all over the place in different applications. So the university, as a good university, has a wide range. Some of the projects come our way. Some of the projects they stay where they start and they end. But you name it, we have it probably.
So you have like a mix between private industry and university research between the two projects, right?
Yeah, in some cases, for sure. Some other are literally like the Red Sea projects that they see at the coral health. They are not private entities. It's just like, okay, let's try to cure the corals.
I see. And is there any particular that you enjoy most, doctor? Any particular type of project that you see this is what I like more in working with the team? Is there any particular or you are okay working with any type of projects?
I'm okay with any type of project as long as data involved. That's
Okay.
that's what I like. Is like once they have data that I can actually process, and I start learning about their data and how to process it in order to get some predictive model or even visualize it in a way that they haven't seen before. Because here in the university, most of the time you have experiments that produce a lot of data, but then it's like, okay, help me how to fix this and feed it to the supercomputer so we can process and then get out of that some knowledge or start to get some conclusions or and that's cool. That's what I like. And I don't have any preference right now. I like you mentioned at some point, I have a biomedicine, computational biology background. So I started looking at the biology of things to how mutations affect health and so on and so forth. But when you step back a little, you see that it's a lot of data, and data comes in many shapes. But at the end of the day, it's data. And if you know the language, you can process it.
That's a good point, doctor. I was wondering how this connection between biology and data science, right?
Yeah.
And I guess you just mentioned that is the connection is the data, right?
Yeah, 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 absolutely. Like since about 2002,
Hmm.
the information on biology has skyrocketed. And at the same time, it's like you had a bunch of doctors and biologists that did not touch a computer in other way than to write in Microsoft Word,
Uh-huh.
probably. And then they have all these disks with a lot of bits and bytes that they have to process. And then come in the computational scientists that know how to do that and start teaching the biologists and the doctors. And then you have this merge that is called now computational biology. And it has many branches. When you see the field, it's like there is people from one side just looking at letters and words, and you have another side looking at the space relationship of 2 points or 3 points, 4 points, and they actually have to merge at some point, but it's a wide range of different people looking at a different part. And that's the connection with data science because you need to know how to talk to the computer to extract what you want.
I see. It's like the data science is like the tool, right? To make sure you
Yeah,
can process the information to answer your questions related
absolutely.
to an specific topic. Wow,
Exactly.
we are learning today a lot. So go back to this cross-cultural doctor and all the issues related. Uh, empathy. Empathy, that is one of these key skills, right? Soft skills for people to be able to communicate properly. How that work? with high performance people like you guys, that you have multiple credentials, how you can make sure that empathy plays a role so you guys can go to the same direction?
Yeah, usually how is that saying in English? Like birds of the same feather fly together.
Uh-huh.
There is something
Yes.
like that.
Uh-huh.
So you will find people that is very, very attuned to your own pace of working.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very, very easy to be empathic with somebody that works like you, talks like you, uh, has the same kind of humor. So that's the easy part. The not so easy part is when you find yourself in a new environment with new people that you have not met, and you
Mm-hmm.
have to create that empathic ground ish. So the first thing before empathy, you have to be very resilient and you have to be very patient because you have to understand how these other people think. And that's human nature, right? It's not only like in different cultures. In your own culture, you have to be patient to understand the other person. Now, when there is a language barrier, you have to start from that point. It's like, this person communicating what she or he really wants? Or am I understanding correctly what they are expressing? So that's a level of empathy that is basically a skill. So when you sit down with somebody and you try to connect with this person in the project,
Mm-hmm.
you have to also understand like they come from a different background and probably they have another past. Some of them have a very super competitive path to where they are now. So they come with that baggage. And when you present a different situation, you have to also understand that like, okay, you work in that environment there. What is the good that you bring here? And try to leave what you don't remember very fondly over there. So that's why empathy plays a very, pivotal role, because the other person actually has to have also empathy for you. It's like, it has to understand like, okay, you want me to work with you in an harmonic way. Okay, so I need to work with you. So I have to find also how to communicate with you effectively. Sometimes you will fail to that. Sometimes you will just not succeed. However, the lack of trying is the worst part of it. So you have to try. At least you have to try. Once you find out how to work with different people, and if these people is also patient with you, and they also understand that you are there for work and you want the project to be done, then you can start discussing, okay, what is the things that we have to take out and what we will bring in. But yeah, it's like that. Some
Oh,
of my colleagues that likes to smoke, for example, they start with that. Do you like to smoke? And if the other person likes to smoke, then you can
you
start
start
by, yeah,
creating
exactly.
there. Yes, connecting there. Oh, it's really. I imagine, based on what you described, like a street or a road with six streets where you had multiple cars and everybody goes to a different pace, right? Coming from
Yes.
different backgrounds. Maybe some people is accustomed to working more, longer hours. Another ones be more productive, so called working less hours, so they go slow. And I can see you in the back just trying to make sure everybody arrives at the same time
Yeah.
to
Yeah. Yeah.
the goals.
Yeah.
Now let's go.
Because
Go
because
ahead.
you
Go
you
ahead.
like you said right now, it reminds me like there are people that likes to do like high demanding sprints. Like,
Mhm.
okay, let's work and not see the light of the day until we reach this point. And it could take 3 days, it could take a week, and they do not leave until something is done. And it's like, okay, you might do that if you have a deadline like close to your neck. But there are people that likes it to do for the sake of doing it, right? So you have to make that other people understand like, no, that's not the pace we need right now. If we have time, if we structure that in chunks, we can get it to there. And then it's like, okay, just like you said, the fast car, you have to lower his speeds.
And then the one that is go too slow, maybe pushing a little more
Exactly.
to keep the pace of everybody and making sure that everybody's kind of the same pace. Really, really
Exactly.
good. Now, conflict, doctor. So the last question of this tonight for you. How do you manage conflicts on these scenarios?
Well, is a very sensitive question because it depends on how people understand what conflict is and
Mhm.
how they take it. Because there is people that has been in cultures that thrive in conflict in the sense that they like to argue a lot, like argue the air. So in that sense, you have to be incredibly good at reading the room or reading the air to see where the conflict is coming. In the sense of if conflict arises, is this a good conflict to have because they are passionate about it? Or this is getting a right because it's getting personal? And then to try to chime in the right moment to diffuse is a difficult skill and could be very difficult to achieve also. So in that sense, what do you understand by conflict? Do you want somebody who is very passionate and then is like saying like, no, we should not do this, we should do that? And it also comes with a different aspect of all the people. I don't know if you have found also this, but in my family, you have to overtake the conversation in the sense that if some of my uncles are speaking, I have to speak louder and over him in order to actually overtake the conversation. So this kind of setting could be happening in your project, right? Like you have to overspeak and you have to overtake the conversation so you can direct it to something. Usually, unfortunately, I have very good teams that most of us just listen and then we talk. And there is a back and forth conversation. But when something like conflict arises, either you overtake the conversation and divert it, or you participate on it because it's actually something good that is coming out. It's like, no, 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 keep going, keep going, keep going. This is going somewhere. I'm not clear on where, but it's like we're getting something from that. So we have to keep in mind like how the other person receive our passion or whatever. And I should say it's a little bit related to the stereotypes in the sense that, okay, there are people that in their culture, just like Latin America, it's like we're very passionate, we express with our hands. Or the Italians, they always do this, they have to work with their hands in order to say something like this, right? But if you see also the Asians, the Asians have their hands in front of them or next to them, but they don't raise their hands. They are always like tied to their body. So being aware of all these details of body language according to cultures has to go with alongside your empathy and resilience in order to see where is the conflict going and how are you going to solve it. If it's something that is providing you with new information, probably is a good thing, but you have to be aware that some of the people will be more sensitive to some other words, and then just tell them like, it was not about you. This was about the project. This guy is not like that. This girl is not like that. You have to understand they come from this place or this other place, and become like the mediator. It's a very sensitive topic. It's very difficult to solve because, we're humans. We still have all our feelings and our way of thinking and our way of receiving messages.
Yeah, and I can imagine conflict is gonna be to different levels. I mean, what I do on my projects is I always encourage and say conflict is not something bad. just bring that up as soon as possible so we can discuss and see what we can do. But as you mentioned, doctor, how the people who is more hierarchic will work, right?
Yeah,
Would they be able to say no to the big boss in a sense that they are thinking that this is wrong and just say, hey, I think this is wrong because this, and this? I don't know. It could be really a challenge, a scenario there.
indeed. To talk to the boss is always a challenge, especially if you are not from a culture where the boss is part of the team, if the boss
Mhm.
is on top of the team. And, it's like we know that in Mexico we're hierarchical, so the boss is always on top of the team. But in some other places in Europe, there are some teams that the boss is part of the team and you can directly talk to the team, depending on your luck and depending on your mind setting. If you see that something is wrong with the conflict, what you just said is actually the correct way to say it. Like when you see a problem, bring it forward as soon as possible.
I think that's the best approach. Now, doctor, before we finish, we have a couple of questions from the audience. Uh,
Okay.
the first one is, as someone deeply involved in data science and AI, how do you see cultural diversity influence, I think, innovation and problem solving? So I think what they are asking for is how cultural diversity influence innovation and problem solving.
Okay, so the premise is, and the idea is, the idea behind many multicultural universities is like multicultural approaches drive innovation. Why? Because while we're talking about how difficult it is to manage a project with different parts of the world involved, it also brings different ways of thinking. So that is the driver of innovation. If you don't see and if you cannot do something that somebody else do, that's part of the project, the good part of the project. But most importantly, it's like how do that person see it in their context, that part of the project. Or if they come with a new idea because they saw it in their previous job, in their previous region, in their previous culture, it's like, hey, we can implement this here. That's also a driver. So for data science,
Mhm.
have the mindset has to be something like the computational science. So we all want to work in a project, have a very good object defined, and then we work on it. So there has to be a trick that is the connection with your team, because you probably will be online working with them. You have to try to find that common ground in order to establish some confidence with the team, a personal relationship. Since I am old, for example, one of the tricks would be to listen to the music of people in Egypt and then asking them like, hey, do you listen to this person? Right?
Mhm.
Establish a common ground with younger people. And it's like, they might say, no, that's what my sister listens. Something like that, you know?
Okay, we have a couple of more, but I think if we already arrived to the hour, doctor, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna send those by email so you can answer those quickly and send us back. I think there is another question here on the chat. What is one key lesson you had me personally learned from working with multicultural teams that wish you to have known from the beginning?
Okay, very good question. And I will tell you my actual experience going to Spain. I am from Mexico. So I went to Barcelona and I did the great mistake of assuming that the culture was pretty much close to my culture. So the moment I arrived to El Prat, which is the airport in Barcelona, I saw the signs and I thought, why is there Portuguese in the signs? And then I continue my walk, and then I arrive, and my friends from there, my colleagues, were actually solving that problem for me. They told me it's not Portuguese, that's Catalan. That's what we
Catalan.
thought. That's what we talk here. And then it's like, what? Why? Catalan? What do you mean? You speak Spanish, right? And like, no, 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 we speak Catalan. What do you mean you speak Catalan? You're from Spain. Like, no, 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 we're not Spain. What do you mean? So there were so many questions. And the most important question, then I realized I was a fool not to research where I was going. Is when I thought, hey guys, so who's your president? Like, yeah, we have that needs. And like, no, no, you're president. You're a republic, right? They're like, no, we're a kingdom. What do you mean you're a kingdom? Like, no, no, officially, we have a king and we're a kingdom. We're not a republic. And then I realized that I should have researched the place I was going. So do a little bit of research for that region you're working with or you're going to migrate in. Because believe me or not, even if you assume that culture is very close to you, it's not. There are so many different things that is going to be really different. So if you want to fast track that, one trick, listen to a comedian from that region. Though comedians usually use very normal topics for the culture. Like, for example, Indian culture, they have amazing comedians that they will bring their stuff and then you will learn what they mean. So much for example, the Spanish comedians. So that was a key thing. Listen, go and research where you're going. Because believe me, it will make you understand very superficial, but very important how they think, what is going on in their minds. And usually another trick is like try to learn the language, the local language. You might fail, but they appreciate that you tried. Most of people where I go, they appreciate that you tried. You might not be able to speak really well, but they recognize the effort.
Thank you, Dr. Didier. Well, we have arrived to the last part. Thank you again for sharing your deep expertise and global expertise with us today. Really, your insights into how science, data, and multicultural collaboration intersect add a lot of value to all the team here. That is, they need to be working in multicultural projects is what happened right now, right? Uh, to all attendees, thank you for being part of this ARC webinar. We hope today's session sparked new ideas and challenges to think differently about how we communicate, collaborate, and lead across borders. Of course, if you find this session helpful, be sure to follow up ARC webinars and stay tuned for our commit events where we continue exploring the skills, stories, and strategies that drive impact in global project management. Until next time, I am Fernando Arcos, and this has been ARC webinars where we connect knowledge with action. Thank you. Have a great day, great night for you, Dr. Didier, and thank you again for your participation.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Bye bye.
Bye.